Hi guys, Xyrage here and welcome to the Zeus Basics Workshop. I'm gonna show you everything you need to know to host a simple operation. This will include all relevant controls, modules, and a few little tricks to make you a more effective Zeus. First thing to talk about is how to get Zeus and how to set up a mission. For that, we'll be using the Eden editor. So you go to single player editor. We'll use Altis. Now, this is the Arma 3 sandbox builder to set up your missions. There's much more about Eden than what we'll be using it for today. You can place objects in Eden editor with much higher precision and control than in Zeus, as a lot of the objects are a little finicky to place down in Zeus itself. So to build detailed areas like bases, I do recommend using Eden. Now, to get Zeus from Eden, you'll have to place down a unit. It doesn't matter which one, we'll put down a crewman. And you'll notice the red little circle around the blue unit indicator here. That means that this player is now the player, or this unit is now the player unit right here. Player unit. Gonna need to set the variable name. We'll set that to Zeus. And then to give this unit Zeus, you need to go to Modules, Zeus, and then Game Master. Set the owner. The exact same name. This is case sensitive, so set it the exact same name, either copy paste or type it in, and set the default add-ons to all add-ons, including the unofficial ones. All right, now we're done. Now to get this quickly, if you're hosting a lot of operations and you're building many things, I recommend you make a custom composition out of this, of which I do have one right here, Zeus, and I hit my enter on my numpad to play, or you just hit the play button in the bottom right. Alright, now that we're in game, you'll see we can play as my character. First thing you do is you press Y. Now, if you now see a little ping appear, you hear the ping and you'll see the little Zeus eye in the middle of the screen. Something went wrong in that step in Eden editor, and you're gonna have to redo that again. If not, then you should be getting Zeus like me here. Now, firstly, we'll talk about a few controls. WASD to move your camera around, Q and Z to do the elevation for the camera, and Shift to speed all these up. All right, then we got a few things in the interface of Zeus. If you press E and R, you can hide and show the tabs on the left and the right of your screen here. If you press backspace, you'll remove the whole interface. Now, we got for November for night vision, and if you press it again, you'll get the default Arma thermals. Now, we have A3 Ti enabled, so if we press B, bravo, we'll get the A3 Ti thermals, both in black and white. You got a little clock and a compass in the top. Those are K and O. The default buttons for your compass and your watch are also the buttons for the compass and the time in the top of the screen here. And that's pretty much it for the interface. Now, if you press M, you'll open the map. Press T, you'll toggle the textures. With middle mouse, you can move the camera around. And now there's a quicker way to do the camera if you have a location that is that you need to be at often. So let's put down a FIA squad right here to indicate this. Like this would be our spawn area. I can do Control F1, so the function keys, and you'll see a little flash, like you're being flashbanged. This is, I call it a flash point. If you now move to another location and you need to go back at spawn because somebody died or somebody is reconnecting, you can press the F1 key and you'll teleport your camera to that location where you saved it instantly. Very handy. I use it all the time. I refer to it in some of my videos as well. Setting the F1 to the spawn and the F4 to like the final objective, and then F2 and 3 to the locations where the teams are at currently. So that way you can easily teleport a player like that. And then let's say the players are operating right here. I'll set F3 there so I can do teleport player F3, and that's it. Super quick. All right, so now that we got that down, we got the controls down, we'll start with the create tab on the right here. First thing is singular units. We'll delete this. First thing is singular units. You got the blue for op for independent and civilian tab, and then empty. Empty is a lot. there's a lot of little props, objects, all that stuff. But this also includes mines. So if you go to things and then explosives, you can place down IEDs. All right, so the create tab. The single one is for singular units, single objects, single units, single units. The groups will place down groups of infantry and groups of everything, really, in all of the factions, and the civilian does not have any groups there. However, the groups and then the empty will show you composition. So like this, you'll have a field barracks. It will take a little while to load, but there we go. Now if I hit backspace again, I'll take away the interface so you don't see all those yellow thingies. This usually works quite well, putting this down in Zeus. However, some items may start flying, or they're going to be skew. Like this is quite level, but if it's on a rock, like this, for example. So if you do use this in Zeus, you're going to have to go around the place and check if things are not breaking people's immersion, because realistically, nobody would place down their sandbag like this. Yeah. You will notice when you load in as Zeus that way that you're going to have this Game Master module. Don't delete this because you'll delete your Zeus perms. You'll see this on the server as well. Usually that will be in debug corner, which is the bottom left. Don't delete that. It's going to break your game. Right, so on the right here, we got units, we got groups, now we got modules. We're going to go over some of these. There's a lot of modules here. In the advanced workshop, I'll go over most of these. Not every single one, but in the beginner workshop, the basic workshop will cover the essential ones you need to know to host your first operation. And we got markers over there, so if you have a HQ, you can mark that up like that. And if you then open your map, we'll teleport our Zeus somewhere else like that. You see that there's now a marker. So instead of having a completely empty map, it's nice to have a few like enemy locations and friendly locations to make it feel a little bit more alive. All right, we'll get going on some of the controls for AI. We'll go to a city right here and we'll put them down on these crossroads. Now, AI pathing is going to be a little finicky. You're going to have to get used to how AI works, how AI pathfinding works with the different stances and the different modes. All right, so we'll get started on the units here. We'll just put down a simple rifleman for now to show you the first things here. If you double click the little box above the unit, in the case of blue fur, that's going to be a blue rectangle. You're going to see this. Now here you can edit their call sign, unless the players will see them on their either C tab or on the map. There's really no use of editing this at all. Here's the formation. This is only when it's a group, and it will give them a formation when they're in aware mode. So if you send them from one place to another, they will move in that formation. Here's behavior. Careless. Barely ever use this because they'll be careless. If they get shot at, they'll not do anything. If you set them to safe, they'll start moving around with their gun down and following roads. If you set them to aware, they do kind of follow roads, but they'll have their gun up, like they're constantly aware and looking for players. If you set them to combat, they'll be moving from cover to cover, or like prone, covering each other, etc. And to stealth, they'll be prone and they'll be crawling around and trying to be stealthy. Default will be the aware. All right, as for the combat mode, then there's the speed limited. This will make sure that they're only walking. Normal, we'll just let them combat pace. And then you got full, they will just full sprint. Stances, self-explanatory, prone, crouched, standing up, and automatic. I usually leave it on automatic unless I have him like standing in a building where he can't see anything unless he's standing up. So I'll force him to stand up in that case. Force that unit or force that group to stand up. And then here's the stuff you can do for executing codes and scripts onto the units. We'll not get into this in the basic workshop. We might in the advanced. And there's one last thing here. There's the side. You can change the side for units after placing them down. Be aware for using the civilian though. If a civilian unit has a weapon, they'll just shoot everything. Alright, so you place down your unit, but you want them somewhere else. You don't have to delete them, you can just hold and drag them into the, in this case, construction site. If we want them on the ground floor, it's pretty easy. You can do it like that. Sometimes it will put them like underground. It's gonna be a little finicky, it's still Arma. But if you want them on top of a balcony, you can hold Alt and change the elevation here. So let's say we want this guy on the balcony right there. We can hold Alt. If you just copy paste, that works too. It will copy and paste your unit. So let's put 3 dudes down like that. All right. Now, if we want them, you already saw me doing it. If you want them to look in a different direction, you're gonna have to hold Shift. So we'll put this guy on this balcony, but we want this dude to be looking down that way, and we want this dude to be looking down that way, down the other street. If you hold Shift and you click on the unit with left mouse button and you drag him into the direction that you want him to look, it will turn the unit. Sometimes, especially when you have the unit's Garrison, they'll just look in a specific direction. There's no way around that as far as I know. A fun little thing you can do with the Alt, so raising the units into the air, you can actually make people paradrop that way. So if you raise them high enough, it will create a little parachute, as obviously the game understands that they're going to die if they don't. So you can paradrop units like that without having to use any aircraft or whatever. Same thing for like little supply crates. So if we go for supplies, we can paradrop a standard supply crate like this. You usually would do this a little higher, but if players would need a resupply, you can paradrop stuff in like that. Alright, let's get to waypoints and showing your AI around. We'll now get a little patrol going. So we can select the sentry here. I do this all the time. These are very handy. Just make sure that they don't include any units that you don't want the enemy to have. So things like anti-air. If you're saying that there's no anti-air in the area and you got little birds flying around, the AI will just shoot them down regardless because, well, you've been using groups including anti-air, like the air defense team. Pretty obvious, but sometimes it's not as obvious. All right, like I said, we're gonna get going for patrols. We got a little patrol here. First waypoint you can set is just right click. So you select the units like that, or you select a single unit, and because these two are grouped, it will send that one too, but I usually just either select them like that or select the little rectangle above, and then right click to do the first waypoint, the first move waypoint. You can also do a attack waypoint. So let's say we have a assault squad down right there, and we want these units to attack that waypoint. You'll see that the little cursor colors red and makes like an attack waypoint. If you want to add a waypoint to your after your first waypoint, so you want these guys to move there first and then to the other corner, you can hold Control and you'll see the little plus appear. You can make them patrol like that. The only issue with this is they're gonna stop at the very end there. To fix this, you hold Alt and you'll see the little 2 arrows in the middle there, and it's gonna create a cycle waypoint from their point of origin to the point where you click the Alt and back. You can add waypoints to this. So if you start off with the Alt to do the cycle, and then you hit Control to add waypoints to that. So we can make them patrol around this little block. And you can again move the waypoints using left mouse button, and these guys are now patrolling around this little block of houses. As you probably already noticed, these guys are sprinting around the area. It's not very relaxed patrol, not very realistic either. So I usually select the units and go to set to safe and set them to limited. So they'll take the roads because of the safe, and they'll just walk because of limited. The only issue is as soon as they get into contact, they'll still be on limited movement speed and they'll only walk everywhere. As soon as players come into contact, I'll set them all to normal movement speed. Alright, last two controls are delete and end. If you need to delete a unit, it will delete the unit, and if you hit end, it will end its life. Killing the unit or destroying a vehicle, etc. One more thing about placing down units is if you, for example, place down a car or a truck or whatever, you can, there's this place vehicles with crew option in the bottom right there. So we can place this vehicle with crew if we want it to be able to drive. But if it's a GMG vehicle and we want it just for to be a prop or just not to be manned by AI, you can hit the place vehicle with crew, so it's unchecked, and then it will just place it empty. When you want the players to use that vehicle, you don't want AI in it. Alright, now we're getting into the interesting stuff, the modules. We'll only be covering some of the basic modules and the stuff that you need to run your first few operations, because there's a lot to talk about here. Now, depending on if you have lambs, you're going to have either 2 or 3 options. I'll cover the ace option and the lambs option here, as the vanilla one is definitely the worst of the 3. So you put the Garrison group module on a group, and you'll have task radius. That will be the radius in which the group will be looking for a building to garrison. We'll set this to 30 meters. You got a teleport option if you want them to teleport or not. If no, then they will walk to the location where they would be garrisoned, and if yes, then this is faster for setting up your mission. But if you want to like re-garrison a area and players are already there, you obviously can't teleport them because that would break immersion. Then you can fill top to bottom, and you can do even filling, building by building, and random filling. Just figure out what that works, how that works exactly on your own, and you'll be able to use this most effectively. And we can teleport it like that. And as you see, we have teleported our guys to 4 different buildings here. We can still move them, and like I said earlier with the direction, after you've garrisoned the units and you try to make them look in a specific direction, they won't. They'll just, well, keep looking in one certain direction. I wanted the units in this construction site only, so that's what we'll do. We'll set these guys. You can just drag them out. Basically, what the Garrison module does is it disables the pathing for the AI. And now the second one here, you can garrison them and then you can ungarrison them. So, for example, they're getting shot at, and realistically speaking, they wouldn't just stay out there out of cover. Instead, you can ungarrison them, so you will allow them to move again, allow them to walk again, and they can then find their own cover. They will still sometimes stay inside the building, but at least they won't just stand in a window getting shot at or on a balcony without any cover. Then the second option here is the Lambs Garrison group. I prefer using this one. If you have this available, this is definitely the superior one. You can use the group as center, or you can put the Garrison module down on a building and then just choose a group to garrison the building, or in that radius, garrison the buildings in that radius. There's the exit trigger. You can set that to random. I preferably set that to all, as fired near, fired, and hit. Meaning, if the unit itself fires, or a gun is fired near the unit within like audible range, like 80 meters, they'll start moving, and if they're hit themselves. So I usually set that to all, and then you can start positions to hide. Just figure out how this works exactly. Definitely teleport the units if you're just setting it up. And then the dynamic patrol. If you check that, part of this group will split off and start a dynamic patrol around the building where you're garrisoning these guys. So right now we've set these guys up again on a 50-meter radius around that point. And again, I want them all in this building right here. It works pretty much the same. The thing is now, if they're fired at or fired near, or if they're hit, they will actually ungarrison on their own. So it's kind of a intelligent garrisoning module. Definitely prefer this one to the Ace AI garrisoning. We won't be covering any of the other Ace stuff. We'll cover all that in a advanced workshop in the near future. Now, depending on your operation, usually you want your players to have access to a arsenal. Now, there's this Ace arsenal button right here, which adds the full ace arsenal. You're going to need to put down something to put that in. That can be a car, a supply truck, anything, or a supply box, anything. We have specific ones for Sigma arsenal boxes like that. So you grab the ace arsenal, add full ace arsenal. If you have multiple, you can hit Control again to click and then add it to multiple. But if it's just one, you'll just click it and that's it. There's this box now contains the ace arsenal. We can press Y and go out of Zeus and check interactions arsenal. And this will give us the ace arsenal. Now the next module here is going to be the AI skill, global AI skill. Both in Ace AI and in AI, they're called the same. I prefer to use the AI global AI skill, as that will give you a little more option than the Ace one. I forget this all the time, but set global skill enabled. Set this to enabled, because otherwise this will not do anything. Now, in my opinion, depending on the faction that you're using, the AI skill is fine as is. In certain situations, you're going to want to change this, however. Some factions are a little more OP than others, and some situations, like at night, you don't want the AI to have as much of a spotting distance or as much of a aiming accuracy as they would have otherwise. To make things a little more realistic, I'd be using this. First thing you would do is set down the general skill, the aiming accuracy, aiming speed, and aiming shake. If I feel like I need to change them, I usually set them to like 25 or 30%, as that works fine. And then there's the spotting distance. Say you're doing a foggy mission, or there's a lot of foliage. The AI will just laser through foliage and see players, is what it feels like to the players. So setting the spotting distance and spotting speed down a little will help for that. So you can remember to hit the enabled, and then you can just hit OK, and that should do it. If you go back to the AI skill again, it will remember those settings, and you can change them again later, so it's not a permanent thing. Alright, next section will be the environment. Here you can set the weather, the time, the date, the time acceleration, and you can hide terrain objects here too. So let's say we don't want these two rocks here. We'll just remove the rocks, and we can now set up our base. Alright, so we got the change weather module here. First off, you'll see the force changes. If you set this to no, it will let the engine transition the weather from the current setting to the one that you want. The only thing is, and you'll see this in this note here too, it can desync and differ between the server and between clients. So if you want everybody to have the same fog or the same rain or the same everything, just set this to yes and just slowly transition it yourself over the course of a few minutes. You're gonna have to figure out what exactly the fog altitude and fog decay does. It's easier to just mess around with this yourself than for me showing you, because it's a little, again, finicky. Just mess around with it before you do this during an operation. Next one is the set date. You can set the year, set the month. Year doesn't really matter. Month, you can make it a different season so that the days are longer and shorter. As you can see the bottom there, you'll see that this is it's going to be light from say 5:45 to 18, and in January it's only going to be light from 7 to 17. Another thing for night ops is going to be the moon stage. So if you drop down the days, you'll see that one of the days is going to have a full moon and one of the days is going to have no moon. For night ops, I usually prefer to have it like 2/3 towards full moon or from full moon, as full moon will give you a very bright environment, as I can show you here. This is pretty bright if you're doing a night op. AI will see you. Players can do this without night vision, and they should be all right. I usually like to set it to like 2/3, and then players have night vision on. No moon at all is going to make it very dark and very hard to see for the players. It's going to be pitch black. But again, this is for you to figure out and for you to play with. Next option is going to be skip time. Now, this is going to be the one you'll want to use if the players are, for example, halo jumping at night, and then they're going to be waiting until morning before attacking a certain location. For example, you'd skip time, as that will show the little 5 hours later little cutscene for the players. So it's a little more transitional and a little more role play. They can immerse a bit more than just having the time suddenly change and the weather suddenly change. Then there's time acceleration. I use this quite often as well. You can set this to 60 times, making one day 24 minutes. Usually I set it up to like 8 times or like 12 times. Usually I just set it high enough so that I can just stop it as soon as I feel like this is the amount of light or like the amount of sun that I need. Artillery, fire mission, and create target is something that we'll get into on the intermediate workshop. For now, probably the only one you'd be using is the 82mm mortar and maybe the 155 howitzer. 82mm mortar would be, I'd use that when players are sitting on a hill doing recon, or when like they have a base of fire and they're spotted, they're getting shot at, and they're just sitting there and just deleting all of the AI from that hill. And realistically, the enemy would start to mortar that location. So you'd like send one over there as like a check round, and then walk your mortars onto the players slowly and slowly. Check some of the videos where we do this. We'll enlighten you on how I implement that. Don't immediately put down the mortars on the players like that and be like, ha ha ha, you guys got killed. That's no fun. And we got interiors and the lamps. We'll cover both of these in the intermediate workshop. You don't need to know how that works, or you don't need to use them on your first few missions. They are things to elevate your Zeusing kind of to the next level. You're perfectly fine without. Focus on getting your mission done first, getting your story. Make sure that the players are having a good time before you implement more stuff and put more work on yourself as a Zeus. So the next one here would be the players. You can create a teleporter. If you just put this on a random location, it will create a teleportation pole. So a flagpole like that. You can also put them on other props, on vehicles, and it will create a teleporter. So we can make this the arsenal. We can make that the arsenal, and now we have a teleportation pole. You can move these around. On the server, this will lag behind a little, so don't be alarmed if it does. We'll move that one over there. We have this one over here. They can scroll, wheel, teleport southwest of Topolia, and this will teleport me over here. And we can teleport back as well. So that's the teleporter. Then we have the players is teleport players. I barely ever use this anymore because there's the option to just right click and teleport players. You can also like select multiple players and right click teleport. There are better options for this. I don't recommend using this teleporter, but if you don't have any other choice, for example, a player is inside a vehicle and you need them to get outside the vehicle because they're down and you want them to you want to revive them. This is going to be the way you can teleport them out. So let's say my guy is down and he's inside a vehicle. I can use this. This is the only module that will be able to teleport him out. Include vehicles, no, and then I'm there. And then you can right click, heal all players. That right click heal is the same one as Ace Medical full heal. But again, right clicking is faster. So that's what I use. That's what I recommend using. So to get the players to be able to spawn in first, you're going to need a mission file where that is all set up. I'm not going to cover that here. There's plenty of videos explaining that. On our server, there is a mission file. You'll just load up. You'll import your SQF if you have anything set up like that. We'll get to that later. But first thing you do, if you want players to spawn in, there's this respawn section, and then players, depending on the faction they'll be using, usually you'll be using Blue 4. You put Blue 4 down. Now Blue 4 can spawn there. Be advised though, if you put this down, as you can see in the top of my screen, I'm now getting a new infantry respawn. Every time I put down a new respawn, every Blue 4 player will get a message that there is now a new respawn. You can let players spawn into buildings, for example. Just have someone test that out so they don't all spawn on top of the roof. When you're letting the players know they can spawn in, they're all spawning on the roof and they're going to have to break their legs jumping down. Just have someone test out your respawn if you're doing something special, like on a carrier in a building, stuff like that. But just out here in the field, it shouldn't be an issue. The players will just spawn right there, and that's it. That's that. Here we got scenario flow. That will be briefing, countdown. We don't use those. End scenario is the one that you're going to need to end your scenario. You got two options there, mission complete and mission failed. Don't look at these three. It's this one or that one. You can send like a little bit of a debriefing, like it's mission failed because too many civilians died. And now it's mission over, or mission complete. Well job. Something like that. You can send you a little message. You can also just not and just hit OK or hit enter, and that will end the mission. And then we got scenario name. This will... We can, if you hit this, you can do this at any point you want, but it will show the players that little, like, it's your operation title. This one is important. Side relations. If you want the players to be sneaky and stealthy and you don't want the AI to spot the players, you should set the side relations. You can set the relations for everyone. Most of the time it's going to be blue 4 versus op 4, or blue 4 versus independent, and then friendly 2 and hostile 2. So let's say we have a stealth mission and we want the players to sneak around at night, and realistically speaking, the AI can't see the players, but because it's a video game and it's Arma AI, they will see the players. You can set them to friendly 2. And then you can just control the AI yourself once you feel like they have spotted, or like they're walking up to the player's home. What was that sound? Stuff like that. You can just do that manually. At the point that the players are spotted, however, you can just set this to hostile. Don't play that radio message. That will break everyone's immersion. Just don't do it. Alright, so the last one here is the Zeus dropdown. There's a few here that you'll use all the time. One of them is hide Zeus. Just hide your Zeus when things are going on. For you to be in radio range, that's required with Acre. Just hide your Zeus, put him on a hill nearby, or put him like in a house somewhere away from the players where you won't hinder them or hear them. If you do get a ping, which well, you'll hear when people press the Y, you'll get the ping and the little Zeus icon in the middle of the screen. You can hit space, and that will teleport your camera immediately to the player that last pinged you. So you don't have to react immediately if you're doing something else. You can just react to the player a minute later by just pressing the space and teleporting your camera to them. And right-click, teleport Zeus, easiest one to teleport your Zeus around to those players. Just make sure that you have your Zeus character hidden to not break everybody's immersion. Next one's promote to Zeus. You'll barely ever use this. On the Sigma server, we have designated Zeus slots. However, sometimes you're going to need to promote people to Zeus, so that's where that button is. There's remote control. You can grab that and put it on a unit, an AI, enemy units, friendly units. I barely ever use that specific module. Instead, just hit control and then double click left mouse button on the unit, and that will do it for you. A lot easier, a lot faster. And then there's update editable objects. So you put that module down and you'll get access to this little interface. Now, I always set this to remove, no, and then all units and vehicles unchecked. So all you will be doing is removing static objects. So only walls, supplies, that stuff. And then hit OK. To add those things again, I just use the right click, editable objects, add, and then a radius you want. You can also remove, but this will remove everything. So everything from that list that we mentioned just now, that will remove everything. So the way I do this, and the way that it's fastest in my experience, is if you want to add stuff, you use this. And if you want to delete stuff, don't use this module right there. This one right here is the exact same one. You got remove, no, and then a certain radius. You can do this mission wide, uncheck all these, just use the static, and that's it. Fastest way to do it, most efficient in my experience. Alright, that brings us to the end of the modules here that you need to know for your first few Zeus operations. So one last thing worth mentioning here is the right-click menu. You can heal in a radius. If you have it on a player, you can heal all heal player. You can set captive and you can set surrender. And you can edit someone's loadout or check someone's loadout. And then there's obviously the editable objects, teleport players, teleport Zeus. That's going to be it for the Zeus Basics. The Advanced Workshop will be much more in-depth, explaining all relevant modules, and it will include even more tips and tricks. If you're new to Zeusing, I recommend you practice a little in single player and host a few operations with a co-Zeus. That'll be it from me. If you enjoyed, hit that like, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, and I'll see you all on the next one.